more so than he is.
Wednesday night, everybody, and we'll say quick hellos and get the show rolling. Because it'll be a good show. Oops, I don't need to hear myself here on my own phone. So we got Bill in the house. I saw Lenny in here. And without further ado, I'm going to sit back and push buttons and let Mike and his guest talk it up. There's Mike.
Hey, Brian, now good to see you again tonight. And we've got our good buddy Steve with us tonight. Steve is coming to us from somewhere in a bunker in southeast Missouri, right, Steve?
Probably.
It's good to see everybody here. And Brian, we appreciate you pinch hitting for Grizzly and running the board and co-hosting the show. Becky cannot make it tonight. She had an emergency come up that they're dealing with. Not anything major, but something they had to deal with and take care of. And she won't be here next week either. I'll be doing the show from the beach next week. So but anyway, good to see Brian and Steve here. Steve is a Missourian, southeast Missouri. My longtime friend in this business, and he's kind of the one that got me started. And I come on here and I talk a lot about the tracking and the telling people how to find the prints, how to find the tracks, what to look for, what to notice. And this guy here, Steve, is the one that has taught me all about that about 5 years ago. So, and probably, and I don't want to flatter you too much, Steve. I'll let you speak for yourself here, but probably he's not a household name researcher. Doesn't do a lot of podcasting, but when it comes to field work, there's no better. Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
we got about an hour show tonight. I want to talk about a couple things, and we want to focus on that you and I have kind of um, been involved with as far as coming out with some things. We'll talk maybe a little bit about the theory of the growing rocks before the show's over with, and but first of all, you've been seeing these boogers a long time throughout your lifetime, long before I even thought about it. Um, why don't you tell us about your most interesting encounter that you've had, sighting and encounter? So
Well, Mike, I have a lot.
I know that,
um, but
but
let me
we
start
got about
about.
an hour though, so that's
Okay, let me quickly start on my Bigfoot journey. At one point in time, I thought it was a bunch of hooey. Uh, it all started when I was 12 years old. My grandfather. I'm originally from St. Louis, and I moved to southeast Missouri in 1977. But around 78 or 79, my grandfather stopped by the house, and it's not normal. I'm like, Grandpa, where's Grandma? He had his muck boots on, and he I remember him talking to my mom. I was small, but one of his friends that he went deer hunting on his property, which is our research area now, went missing. And from there, he had 1 year to. Uh, that was the last 1 more year to hunt there because the land was being sold. I'm not going to mention where, but they had 1 year to vacate. And my grandfather told me a story when I was probably about 1983, 4. But basically, he said it was a nice day. He was at his hunting blind, which, Mike, you know what I'm talking about. It's an old
right.
Ford panel van. And he took a little walk down a down the ways a little bit. He went down a 1/4 mile downhill hill that opened up to 3 fields. He seen something and he shot it. He shot it with a little 25-20, which shouldn't be used for deer. But anyway, I guess that was his favorite rifle. He uh, he mentioned it was about 100 yards off. He shot at it, and I don't know why, but you don't supposed to shoot stuff you don't know what it is. But anyway, that was back in the day. It
Know
was,
your target, and if you're going to eat it or whatever,
yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. So yeah,
And I'm not. My father taught me that too, and I'm not going to eat Bigfoot. I
no,
assure you, it's probably stringy. But anyway, uh, he he walked down this hill, and it opened up to this field. Well, for starters, the property owner warned him in the past about the boogers or
yeah,
booger men there. Uh, I don't know if my grandfather believed it or not, but the property owner also told him that they shouldn't bother you hunt. They had deer camp there, a big deer camp, and
right,
basically it was a big drunk fest because my grandpa
yeah,
used to drink a lot and he was an alcoholic. But this is probably, I don't know, late 60s, early 70s. And the property owner warned him about the boogers or booger men, that's what they called them, but they shouldn't bother you, especially you hunters with guns. So my opinion is Bigfoot knows what guns are. I
yeah,
don't know from vision or the smell of the powder or whatever. But he took a pop shot at it, and he said he didn't know if he hit it. He had his glasses were fogged up. He said it didn't have no effect on it, and he said it walked like a man, but it was no man. 7 to 7.5 feet tall, no more than 700 pounds. Uh, a monster of sorts. Uh, when you're 12 years old, you're like, at that time, you heard of Bigfoot, but most people think it's fake,
right,
the movies, the slashers, and all that. So I don't know if at that point, he believed or just, I don't know, but he took a pop shot at it and it didn't have no effect on it. And then the following year was the last year they were allowed to go hunting there. And the property owner never showed up opening day of deer camp. I guess it was Friday. and he never showed. So my grandfather went down there and to his house, which was very close, in between two parking lots, basically in a very rural area, which I refer to as into flat Earth because it's landlocked. There's hills. It's probably the most hilly area in the county. It's isolated. There might be a couple houses within a mile or so. It's pretty desolate for the most part, and again, it's landlocked between states and counties and rivers and streams. It's the middle of nowhere for the most part in our county. Uh, and that he never showed up, the property owner for that Bigfoot camp, the last one, and he went down to the house, and the house was completely abandoned. He said grass was 3 feet tall. Uh, House was abandoned. Doors were open. Uh, I think it kind of irked him a little bit because he said that all of his belongings were thrown around the house like trash, like disregarded with no respect. But
Yeah.
come to find out, after my grandfather shot at that wood booger, I guess that's what they called them back in the day. But the next day, after they left deer camp, the property owner went missing, nowhere to be found. And I've heard some urban legends. Even one of my neighbors, when I was a kid, told me to avoid going there to that property. I think I think they mentioned something about something being demonic there, but I know now. I actually met the property owner after. Well, they never found a body, uh, and the my neighbor told me to avoid the place, and he mentioned something about it might be demonic or whatever, but they didn't know. They shouldn't have sold the house without finding the body. Uh, Blah blah blah, and he just went missing. And I've researched it. I can't find any. I looked on plot maps. The property owner, I know his name. I can't find any information about it out there. But they searched and searched, and the neighbor warned me about that place because I took my buddy there, which his son, he lives 2 houses down. We were in the same grade, Branson, and he's like, I know this place, which I never accessed that place from the road. It was always from going through woods, hiking. That's how I found this place. Uh, and Basically, he told me stay away. And then they never found the body, and of course, he went missing and all that good stuff. But they never did find him. Like again, they said something about demonic and all that. Years later, I visited a couple times with my brother Scott, and he was very nervous. I know why, because we probably had some kind of infrasound coming from there. Because the house was apparently occupied by Squatch. Later on, uh, let me think here. I met before that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, in 1991, I actually met the property owner there of that property, and she wouldn't tell me what happened. But the neighbor said that she might have went crazy and she heard things, and her name was Patty. And
Now
of all
you
things,
met her in 1991. Is this after the property was sold to
yes, the property
everything?
was sold. Patty bought it and she abandoned it. And she told me she wouldn't step foot back on this property, uh,
Okay.
but she couldn't tell me why. And then she sent me on a reconnaissance mission to retrieve a cash stash of money, and she was going to split it with me and some jewelry. I couldn't figure out what jewelry she wanted, so I brought the whole jewelry box. But I went there. It's fall of '91. My brother Scott, he was very nervous. I don't know why, but I know I'll tell the story later. But uh, I retrieved all that stuff, and I found the money. I didn't get everything. She had some paper. She used to own land in Illinois. She sold it to an airport. And she wanted documentation. It was in the north side window in the trim, but I tried pulling it off and broke off my fingernail, so didn't get that. But I did find the money. It was upstairs in the bedroom, like she said, on the north side, in the not the mattress, but the box spring. So I ripped it open, and I found it. big old wad. However, I didn't get to keep any of it because it was turned into shreds from mice.
Ah,
About that time, I seen there's an old closet door. The house was built in probably the 20s. The closet door I thought moved because when we first got there, it was open. Then it closed. And let me back up. This is kind of off the. But as soon as we got there, it was dark. It was kind of a low lining area, and I seen looked up the upstairs window, and I seen a silhouette of a human shape. I had a gun, 22 mag. I had 5 rounds. I told my brother, I seen it come towards the window. It was dark, black window, and then
right.
whatever walked forward was darker. It
Yeah.
was a human figure, and I'm like, Scott, there's somebody in there. Whatever, blah blah blah. It's an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere. So I'm like, I was nervous. We get in there, and I had my gun. I'm clearing the house. I'm 16 years old. Freeze! Announce yourself, and I cleared every room,
So you're
and then
16 at this time.
had a 22 rifle.
How
Yep,
old is Scott?
17 and a half or so.
Okay, he's just a little older than you. Scott's a
Yep.
good friend as well. I knew you guys are close to the same age. Go ahead.
Actually, in this time, I was out of high school, so it was the fall of
Oh, you may be
'91.
okay.
And he's like, whatever, I thought I was talking some crap or something, but anyway, I've seen that several times with Bigfoot, like in cave entrances and stuff. It's dark, but when they walk really close to look, you can see the outline
You
that's
see
darker.
because they're slightly different than the darkness you're in, so you can see a
Right.
little silhouette there. Yeah.
So I cleared the house, and of course, we had to go up. There's nothing on the main floor. The basement was flooded with water because it was abandoned. So that was cleared. I didn't go down there anyway, but the main floor was cleared. I cleared it, with the 22 rifle. Like that would have done any good with anybody. But anyway, uh, time to go upstairs. The old crickety stairs. Scott was nervous. I mean, he was. I'm like, Scott, chill the out. Uh, I had permission. Patty gave me permission, which the locals called her Crazy Patty. But anyway, I know why they called her that because I think she's seen some crap. Uh, and that's why she never went back there. But he was nervous. Got all nervous. I'm like, Scott, I got permission. Chill. So, we walk up this little corridor up these stairs that were creaky, and I'm looking around and had my gun drawn. Didn't see nothing. So, the only thing I didn't clear was that closet, which after I got the money and the jewelry box, I seen the door move a little bit. I'm like, okay. And I announced, of course, 16. Well, no, that wasn't when I was 16. I got another story when I was 16 when I went to that house with some guys from work. Let me finish this real quick. But I announced, announce yourself. I actually shot 2 rounds in a closet. I was kind of freaked out. I shouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that now. You just don't shoot.
Right.
And nothing. I didn't hear nothing, all that. So I announced, I seen the door move. So I went up to it, announced myself. Nobody didn't hear nothing, didn't see nothing. I took the barrel of the gun and opened the door. Looking in there, it's probably like a 10 by 8 closet. Had a chimney going up in it. I didn't see nothing, but it kind of had a musky smell. It wasn't that bad, but it was kind of musky like a wet dog. And right when I was getting ready to leave, see anything, Steve? I'm like, no, not yet. And then I'm like, well, I see something in the back. It looks kind of like a burlap bag or something, kind of nappy, brown color. And I didn't think nothing of it. And then I didn't see nothing. I didn't go in the closet. I don't know why to this day, but I refused to go in the closet. I could have. It wasn't that big, but just your natural instinct, I guess, at that point in time. And didn't see nothing except the burlap bag that was hanging in the back, or tobacco. I think I told him maybe some tobacco stalks. And then I was getting ready to close the door, and I looked down by the chimney, and I seen something sticking out. I swear to God, it was like Harry and Henderson's in that spot when his toe was sticking out, and that lady freaked out just like that. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I thought I seen something. I look up towards the ceiling. I seen a 9 foot red-headed buck-toothed Bigfoot with like a weird face, like just looking at me. I'm like, Scott's like, see anything in there? I'm like,
Now he is in the rafters up in the closet.
Now his head was up there by the tin roof in the closet because it was way up there,
Uh,
at least 9 feet tall. And he's kind
yeah.
of looking at me, and Scott was like, "You see anything?" I'm like, "I seen him." I'm like, "Let's go, let's go." At this point, I shot 2 rounds in there to the closet, and I got 3 rounds of 22 ammo left. And okay, time to go. You ready? Let's go. Let's go. So I take the barrel of the rifle and close the door. And for the longest time,
So
I didn't believe.
you
Go
don't
ahead.
know if you hit this or not. You just fired a
He
couple
was
rounds to
behind.
get out of there.
He was behind the chimney, so more than likely, I didn't see no blood or any liquid or
Okay.
nothing. So he was hiding behind the chimney, which I wouldn't have done that nowadays. You just don't
Yeah.
shoot.
Well, you do things when you're 18 differently than you do when you're a little older. So
Well, at the time, I actually had a 308 rifle Mauser, but I didn't bring it because I thought I'd get in trouble because I don't supposed to have it, and it
right.
was in my brother's name, but it was my rifle. But
Yeah.
deer season, the area
Yeah.
that I'm talking about, it could be illegal. But that probably would have took care of it. But he kind of had a weird look on his face, like, oh shit, like, oh, excuse me, you might want to bleep that out.
I don't think we can bleep it out. We're live, Steve, but yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm sorry.
but
This is my first time on a podcast besides your old podcast that kept messing up and everything. But
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
Scott was like, see anything in there? I'm like, let's go, let's go. So I shut the door and we left. I think I told Scott, and he didn't. He's like, whatever, dude. But back to the story. When I was 16, this was probably I graduated high school early. I was barely 17, so this was probably 89, 90. Uh, I was working at a local Hardee's, and I was telling the guys that I work with, they're probably in my grade, maybe a grade below, that I found this creepy old house out in the middle of nowhere. They were like, hell yeah, let's go. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's schedule it. We looked at our schedules within a week's time. Uh, we went. I drove my old 68 Dodge truck, had the same 22 rifle and, same path. We went there and looked through the main area. This is before I seen the 9 foot redheaded stepchild, child, which I like to call because
yeah.
he was kind of ugly,
Buck
for the most
teeth.
part. Yeah,
So
just 2 buck teeth sticking out. He didn't have really no protruding canines, or people say Bigfoot stink. I smelled a female one time, and that musky smell, it's no worse than me or a construction worker on a day's hard work. It's not. I can handle that. It's not that offensive. It's no more offensive than what I smell most of the time, but because I do work outside and all that, and sweat and heat and
right.
all that. But we got there, and I had the gun, and one of the guys asked me, "Can I carry the gun?" I'm like, "No." But anyway, we get there. I I, th- I think I had 5 rounds again, but uh, I cleared the main floor again, nothing, and we heard something upstairs walking around. I don't think it was that big, but uh, the guy said it must be a raccoon or something. The windows are blown out of the house or
This is
shot
the
out.
same. This is the same house, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's at our location, our
Yeah.
research area, which I can show you sometime. But I'm not allowed to go there because the new property owner. I had a long discussion with him, but the property, I think it's like 6 acres, but the property is rented out for a land lease for hunting, so he can't even go there. So
Yeah. We
maybe
don't.
one day I'll talk to him again. Maybe he
We don't.
told me
We don't.
some stories about
Yeah.
Crazy Patty, but I don't think she was that crazy because one of the things she said was. The property owner said she had problems with her neighbors. Well, my grandfather had problems with the neighbors too because when the property owner went missing, he went to the closest neighbor to go talk to him about it, and he knocked on the front door, and the guy opened the door and put a gun to his face and said, "I didn't kill him." So I guess they accused the property owner of doing it, but
They
uh,
may have. And you're.
and I don't believe he done it. But also, my grandfather was in his hunting blind. He seen that other property owner come up to a piece of farm implement. It was an old Massey Harris combine, and he shot the tires out on it. My grandpa seen it, so he told property owner, he's like, "Thanks for telling me. I'll take care of it." But they had a feud. I don't think the property owner uh, did it because the neighbor down the street told me that they didn't find the body when my grandfather said he was an alcoholic, so he wasn't at that time, but he quit. But the neighbors accused him of being an alcoholic, and he's like, I don't know why they think that. I I got in some trouble when I was 19, but that was a long time ago. But the neighbor told me they found a bunch of whiskey bottles there in the old cistern, but they were a much older cork type whiskey bottles, way before this guy was even there in the 50s or 60s. You're talking about like teens or 20s, you know. So it wasn't him. The neighbor said, for all he knew, he could be down in the bottom, but they didn't spend the resources to go through it. But he did tell me he had a horse, and there was a sign out there at one time about the horse, whatever his name was, and it was a big area for people going horseback riding. But the horse, he said, was so traumatized when the authorities came there. It was in a stall, and it was basically the horse went crazy. They couldn't do nothing with this horse. They had to tranquilize it. So what I'm thinking is that horse seen what happened, and that horse was freaked out. You know, that's my theory. You
Yeah,
know,
very possible.
that horse seen what happened, and they had to tranquilize it to get it out of there. But back to the crazy Patty, you know, she sent me out there and she's like, "Do you got a gun?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You might want to take it." But she also said she couldn't tell me what happened. Uh, but the new property owner and everybody else said she had problems with the neighbors.
A lot of
So,
people,
oh,
a lot of people,
they're
Steve, they just don't want to talk about these types of experiences.
nope,
You
and
know,
I didn't for the longest time.
right, right.
Uh, But Crazy Patty, I don't think she was that crazy. The property owner told me that she got her electric cut off. I don't know why. I worked with her at my first job. She overheard my conversation about the creepy house, and I guess she heard me say where it was, and she come up to me and said that was her house. I'm like,
Uh,
okay, and that's when she sent me on that reconnaissance mission. But supposedly she had problems with the neighbors and everybody else. The neighbors said that the new property owner. However, she said when she would go to church on Sundays, she'd come back. It was probably an old homestead, you know, a little bit of farm. Yeah, they had a combine, you know, a little farm, you know. And she would come back from church on Sunday, and all the old pieces of equipment and stuff in her property were moved around enough that they were heavy. It would take 10 to 12 men to move it, but it kept happening all the time. At that point, I didn't believe in Bigfoot, but now I know it wasn't the neighbors. It was probably the local natives, as I
yeah,
like to call them.
yeah,
They were
probably.
messing with her.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody said she had problems with her neighbors and all that. Back to 89, 90 with the guys from high school, we went to, sorry for jumping around, but, you know, I'm on the fly and I'm trying to remember this from, what, 35 years ago, 37 years ago. But we cleared the house and we heard something upstairs. The guys wouldn't go upstairs. They were, oh, it must be a raccoon or something, but they were basically chicken crap. You know, they wouldn't go up there. I didn't go up either, but we heard something walking around. It was pacing back and forth. I don't think it was too big, but after a while, I was getting ready to leave and I heard it walk towards the east side of the kitchen, which be towards the river. You know what river I'm talking about? It's the main river. Uh, and then I'm looking out the window.
Mississippi. We're in
Yeah,
southeast
yeah,
Missouri. It's
pretty well.
Mississippi. So
And just a mile and a half away or so at that point. But I was looking outside the kitchen window for some reason. I was looking at the kitchen sink, and noticed how big it was and porcelain, and I seen something jump out the window. Like it flew by. I'm like, did you guys see that? It was looked like a freaking monkey. Uh, can you guys still see me? My phone's got
yeah,
5%. Okay,
I see you.
okay. They were like, we seen something, but I don't know if it was a monkey. But anyway, it had the arms, like when it jumped, arms up, legs down. It was probably, I don't know, 4 feet tall, maybe three and a half. And we kind of
Small
all,
one,
yeah, a little foot, I like to
toddler,
call him.
little
Yeah,
toddler.
toddler. He was, there was no other squatch in the house. I mean, there could have been something upstairs, but I doubt it. I just heard the small thing. Mama might have been out hunting or
They were
frolicking,
close,
whatever.
but he's playing around, and they were probably close somewhere. So
Right. And I said that would look like a freaking monkey. That's not the word I used, but anyway, uh, they're all looking at me like, giving, no, it must have been a raccoon. I'm like, whatever. We kind of stood there for about 15 seconds. I'm like, well, let's go up to the door and look. So we walked up there. Of course, I led. Then them two guys are little weenie boys, so they stood back, but they eventually came. But I seen out there, it was running on all four away. It was probably about 75, 80 yards away. They said it must have been a raccoon. We're all looking at it, and didn't have a tail or nothing. And I'm like, well, at that point in time, I probably knew what it was for the most part. I mean, not 100% sure, but 95, 99 probably, because I had one sighting before that, and
Yeah.
probably 79 or 80 up by Hillsboro, Missouri. Uh, it was running on all four, and its left leg, its femur bone was hanging out. It broke its left leg above the
Uh,
kneecap. It was sticking out. So it just kind of,
would it have done that on the jump, you think, or?
oh yeah, it was a
Yeah.
concrete pad right
Yeah.
below it. So it took off, and I'm like, they kept saying raccoon. I'm like, well, guys, my grandfather told me a story when I was 12 years old, 400 yards from here, maybe 500 yards, about Bigfoot. And they're like, eh. And then the next time I went to work, the manager asked me, I hear you guys seen Bigfoot. I'm like, the guy said it was a raccoon, but I don't think it was. But anyway, that house was interesting. And that's how I got started in Bigfoot for the most part. It took me to the out in this area. I've had over 20 sightings, and I've only had two other sightings at different places, but this place has been the most majority of my sightings. Uh, it took me to the third or fourth sighting to truly believe. It's like I'm arguing with myself that your brain does not recognize it or want to recognize it. It's like, no, it wasn't no damn raccoon. And other times I've seen the sightings, it's like, that's messed up. And at that point, I said that no one's gonna. This is real. It's a real thing, uh, and no one's gonna tell me otherwise. Even if they think I'm crazy, whatever. Uh, but yeah, it's true. I mean, people can believe, and I'm at a point in my life where critics. I won't even couch critics, as I like to call them. I don't even talk to them because they don't know. They weren't there. I've had times where I've been like even that closet incident, 8 feet away from it. You
Yeah.
think you're going to die. I mean, that
Yeah.
changes your perspective of it.
It changes everything.
And
And
then 2004, I got really sick and I had a 0% chance of living, but somehow I'm here. But uh, during that time, it was a pretty hard time. It took me a year to recover, and after that, I didn't remember anything about Bigfoot. Nothing. I kind of laughed at it. Yeah, Bigfoot, whatever. I forgot about everything. Uh, Bigfoot related, probably other stuff too. But my memory's good now. But over time, it started coming back. Piece by piece. I started writing all my sightings down, and it triggered events and sightings that I've forgotten about. I guess subconsciously. And then I started remembering. I started writing all my sightings down, and then before you know it, I had over 20 sightings and 600 pages I wrote. So yeah, I got a book series coming out called Boundary Dispute. But the I didn't intentionally. I went to college for a long time, but I didn't see myself as a writer. But it 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 shined. I just kept writing my stories, and then I'd write a chapter. After about a week or two, I'd start writing a chapter, and then I'd have to go back and correct stuff that I forgot or add detail. And I just started writing. Right, 600 pages. I'm like, I got a book, so I made the decision to cut the book in half at the good point, at the good stuff, and the now I got two books, so I can get paid twice. Uh, Talking about the good stuff is something else I want my tell you guys about my grandfather. Vernon Dydrick. He owned an auto body shop up in St. Louis at Arsenal and Gravois, and that Ford panel van was his hunting blind that one of his customers wanted a flatbed truck, so he took it off and brought it down here. I think he said it took 6 men to put it down there, but I think he said it probably needed about 8 or 10 men. But anyway, it's pretty close to a gravel road. But that's the spot where he left that one time to go down that quarter-mile downhill. But he also said I was probably 12 years old. He said it walked like a man, but it was no man, a monster of sorts.
right.
the word he used, and that was I think he told me about the property owner warned him and stuff, and then he shot it. I'm like, did it make it? It was about 100 yards away. That's what he said too, and I know exactly where it is because in this spot, the details he told me are key because I've actually had a bunch of sightings just in that area, like 5 sightings, like within a 100-yard circle. And then looking on Google Earth, which I recommend people using because you can see things, but there's a natural spring there. All my Bigfoot sightings were in the daytime, so none at night. I don't go out in the woods at night. And for the longest time, after a boundary dispute was the name of my book, and after that, I did not go out in the woods for 16 years. I refused to. These guys wanted me to go camping. I'm like, you guys are crazy. They were camping in my research area. I'm like, you guys are crazy. The first time they all camped out there, they heard some crap, and they were gone by 6 a.m. that morning too. Bill, Bigfoot Bill.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, he was by himself that time,
yeah,
and we were, he was wanting us to camp with him. We're like, no, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Then after he survived about 4 or 5 campouts, I thought, okay, I guess I could camp out with him. But yeah, that's, but
it was about a year and a half after Bill camped, and you were camping regularly too. And I'm like,
yeah,
you guys were still alive, so I'm like,
finally
well.
you started joining us again. So that was,
Brought my
but
little puppy dog, Sweetie Lulu, is a little
yeah,
dachshund. I eventually used her for tracking Bigfoot, and people ask me, "How'd you train her?" Well, she's a lap dog, and I take her on these hikes with us, and then when we get close to something, she'll like run away the opposite way. And also out in the booger woods, which I like to call it, she wouldn't even be by me. She would go to Mike here
she
for
come to me,
protection. Walk
and
right next to him, keep
and I'm
looking up at him,
probably
and looking at me like whatever. She didn't have nothing. She always went to him.
I'm probably twice your size, and she'd always come stand by me. She'd always come close to me. I miss Lulu.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
the so you had a I mean just a lifetime of activity in that
Yep.
same area, and then you
Hmm.
you run into guys like me, and they're just hey, kind of curious and things like that. And we saw that first set of tracks that my son found that we've
Yeah.
talked about on this show before, and I got a hold of you, and you came up, we cast them, everything. Um, let's talk about with the audience. We came across, and actually, your brother Scott was the one
Mhm.
that that kind of spotted this. The rocks,
Growing rocks.
growing rocks, and we kind of theorized that at that time, and nobody else was really doing it. But now there's more podcasters coming out talking about this. So go ahead and
Right.
talk about what we kind of discovered there.
Well, we were on a hike in our research area. There's different areas. It's a pretty vast area, but uh, we were at an area by a large creek access for fishing. But we went out in this low lining water area, the water drained, and it was probably what, July or August. Was that about the time of the year?
August. It was August.
And
August of 2020.
the ground was covered in vegetation, but it was only one vegetation, and that was nutsedge grass because it was a water area,
Right.
and all the grass was dead, all the weeds were dead. But what came up was nutsedge. Okay, it looked like grass, kind of, sort of. And my brother Scott, which we need to give credit for, which he's the one that originated this, that he picked this random rock in the field. It was probably 40 yards away from the tree line, but you pick up this rock,
I think
and
at
it's
20. I think closer to 20.
20, 30 yards, but
Good.
he picks up this random rock, and it's not because the field was turned over or plowed. It was, he picked up a rock, and underneath it was fresh nutsedge grass, like it was somehow put there. Well, I got to looking around, and we found more, and they were all pretty close to the wood lining area. And then from that point on, we found other spots where that, was like that. Something had to put it there, and we found more and more, just everywhere. Another thing is, within 2 or 3 feet from that rock, there was always deer prints.
Right, deer tracks.
And Scott's like, "You guys know what's going on here?" We're like, "No, tell us, Scott. Don't hold it back. What's going on?" The deer or the Bigfoot are using rock to hit deer, or maybe to stun them, or even kill them. I don't know, but maybe if they stun them, the other side of the woods, his buddy is going to run out there like twice as fast as a linebacker and snap its neck. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, and we kept seeing this, and I'm like, I kind of blurred my vision and looked at the woods. I'm like, well, I looked at the thickest part of the woods edge, for cover. Kind of blurred my eyes so I couldn't, I could tell. And then I walked straight there. I walked in there and I'm like, guys, there's big footprints in here. And the right foot was only a half a print, like the first half of the foot. And Mike theorized on this, which I
Well,
agree. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm a baseball coach and lifelong baseball guy, Brian, and you could see the pivot foot as you're throwing a baseball. How you plant the one foot and pivot off the other one. You can see the footprint and the pivot footprint, the partial print, and some little twigs clearing for like a throwing lane through the trees.
Scott
And
also found that too. We looked in there and it's like,
and you can see that, and then it kind of sticks out clear. Now, my question was, can the Sasquatches be that accurate? And these rocks they weren't perfectly smooth, but they're all roughly about baseball to softball size.
right.
Can they throw that accurately to hit these deer and stun them? And I think, Steve, you had the analogy with, you take a Major League Baseball pitcher can take a baseball at 60 feet, and he can hit his target at 95 miles an hour within 2 inches of his aim, just about every time. So these guys are much bigger, much stronger, much more athletic, and they probably don't have anything better to do but practice with those rocks. How many people we know, man, they're throwing rocks, they're throwing rocks, they're throwing rocks. And so just imagine, and then the theory just made sense at that time that this is what's going on. They're using these rocks for hunting.
The footprints behind the bush was what, 17, 18 inches? I don't think I had a tape measure, but Scott noticed that we all got in the wood line and behind the bush, and there were holes in it, like what, 3 or 5 holes about the size of basketball, and the limbs weren't snapped off. They were just snapped, like dangling, like a perfect hole. And
Right.
we think they were manipulated to throw through there.
For a
And
throwing
then,
lane, little
and
throwing
then
pocket.
right, like a throwing hole, because the deer might not see them behind there. But we found the growing rocks everywhere where there's Bigfoot activity. It's. I mean, we're the first ones that talked about this
You had a
before
tree
anybody
line
else.
and you had a field.
Yep.
You would see that, and then I think so.
And also, on another time, we went on a hike. We had probably within 100 yards of that area. We had Scott said he's seen some movement on top of the hill. Mike did too. But we jumped a nesting. It was right at dusk. Nesting turkeys in a tree, and we had a
Right.
tree pushed over at us. Then
Right.
we had crap thrown at our heads, front, back. Scott, I think once might have even hit Scott in the head, but it wasn't a rock. It was hickory nuts. But we
Hickory
couldn't.
nuts.
It was starting to get dusk, we couldn't see 2 inches into this wall. I mean, of foliage. It was just too thick. And
Yeah, the
but
only thing I saw was a shadow go from behind one tree to behind another one about 15 feet away. It just looked like a dark shadow moving like a bolt of lightning. And
yep.
and I'm sure it was a Sasquatch. It was one of the culprits, but that's all I could see was look like a shadow moving.
I think
And it was
that day we were out about an hour and a half, and we went to other places. We found some bridges, and it had riffraff, and there were like things placed in the hole, like human stuff, like soda, kids' juice bottles, pieces of lumber, just like in one hole. They
and
were placed
things that
there.
probably
Human,
humans weren't collecting those things and putting them there is probably
right. and we
Yeah.
found prints there and other spots too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
even
Yeah.
Mike said that day that we were out an hour and a half. He kind of made the we were leaving that area because we had the tree pushed over at us, and it just didn't fall. There was no wind. It was a swampy area. It it fell for like 30 or 40 seconds. We could hear the roots pop, the
You could
trunk
hear roots
crack.
popping. You could hear
It
the
was
tree limbs going through the canopy.
it was
But
deliberately pushed over like 30 to 40 second time, and then when it finally fell, the we could hear the canopy crash. We never did find the tree, but in that area, I found trees that were pushed over just randomly for no reason, up to 10 inches in diameter. So I know
but
Bigfoot can push over at least a 10-inch diameter tree.
but I said we had more encounters and evidence in an hour and a half than the whole
Six
season of
months
finding
or six
Bigfoot.
months of Bigfoot programming, and
Yeah.
it it was quite interesting. And right after that, I found a print in that same area, which I dubbed the name Zeus. It was 8 inches deep in the ground, 24 inches long, and 11 inches across at the toes. His big toe was 4 inches long and 3 inches wide. The next big one I'm going to find, I'm going to call him Calm. But we found this big feller. We found him in this area in a 5 mile radius, which isn't nothing.
We've
Mike's got
seen,
pictures of
yeah,
him.
yeah, we've seen. I've got a couple photographs of the print of his foot. We've seen we see his prints quite often because we know where he walks.
Right.
But the and I'm more into, just in the past year, I kind of got into casting, so I'm more and more bringing casting material. I'd love to cast that thing, but I think it's going to take 2 boxes of plaster to get it
It,
done.
it actually did. I actually mixed a box of Hydrocal 30 and plaster because it was so big. It took two
Yeah,
boxes, and
yeah,
it set up. It was a gamble, but it did work. I mean, what else are you to do?
yeah.
But yeah, I referred to him as Zeus. After I got sick and everything, forgot about Bigfoot. I think it was mid January of 2016. My brother Scott said he heard some crazy sounds come from the creek down there, and it was loud. You could hear it reverb. You could feel it in your chest. And I kind of jokingly said, "Well, it ain't. There's not a lot of big animals that can uh, project
Right,
something that loud that you could feel through your body." And it could have been I said, "Well, the only thing it really could be is maybe a big cat, bear, or deer. That's mountain lion or something." I mean, and I jokingly said maybe it's Bigfoot. But then again, at that point in time, I didn't believe in it because I forgot about it. So the next day, I was out there because I built a new AR build and I was wanting to shoot it. But next day, I went out there and before I finished, I got 1% on my phone. So if I die, then I die. But we went down
you're
there.
supposed to have that charged up. But go
No,
ahead.
I've been working. I just got in. I've been working two jobs
I got
and
that. I got
yeah.
that.
And we went down there and I seen these prints and they're through the weeds and stuff. I'm like, well, they're about 4.5 feet apart, consistent, uh, 14 and a half inch long. I'm like, well, I got to thinking, it's the middle of winter, freezing conditions, barefoot, no shoes, glass. I was off a bridge, glass, barefooted. I got to thinking, started thinking about, possibilities. And at that point, again, I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I'm like, well, what else could it be? Uh, then I found a baby. I think it was 11 and a half. And then I casted him. And then the female, 14 and a half, which I presume was mama. I casted it, but it wasn't that great. I didn't really venture out that long because, I've went hunting when I was younger, tracked a little bit, but this is something different. I didn't venture out far. I wish I did because a couple of days later I went back out there to look for some more. I got to thinking there was a hill out of the creek where mama stepped up. It was the front half of the foot on a hill,
Yeah.
5 perfect toes. I'm like, holy crap, I got to get some plaster. So I casted it. It was $1 million cast. Perfect. It's getting dark, you know. I heard a stick snap or something. I'm starting to get nervous, by the way. I'm like, oh crap. What
That's
do I
easy
do?
to do. That's easy to
And
do.
I decided against my best judgment to dig the cast out, and it broke in half. I'm like, man, I the two big toes I saved, I stuck them in a box, and then the three toes were still on the ground and they were soft. So I covered it up 2 foot high of leaves, sticks, limbs, just all kinds of crap, what I could find, to come back that weekend. Then me and my niece Kayla went that Saturday and went there. They weren't there. The whole hillside was dug out, 2 foot deep, gone. Just dug out like hand scraped. 2 foot of it was missing. So I got two toes. The rest of the toes, I guess Bigfoot took. I don't know if it was watching us or maybe came by later and seen what was going on. I don't know, but yeah, I got the toes
Uh,
to this day.
I'm under the impression if we're out there, we probably have eyes on us. But um, Brian,
That's
before Steve's phone dies, any questions for him or anything to add here?
Yep. Ask
How did
away.
how did you two hook up? What was that
Well,
process?
Su-
I joined the group called. At this point in time, I didn't know any Bigfoot people. In my mind, I was the Jane Goodall of the Bigfoot community. They just keep laughing at me because I said that one time, so it stuck. But Matt teases me about that. But anyway, at that point in time, I didn't know nobody in Bigfoot, and I just the meeting was chaos. I brought a whole by cast in. I was telling all my stories. Everybody was unhinged. Of course, Mike wasn't there
I wouldn't.
for this one.
Well,
The meeting
go
was
back.
so Jerry Springer that Susan Perez had to get her gavel out to make order because everybody was walking. Oh, just it was chaotic.
Susan Perez started the SEMO Bigfoot Encrypted Research Facebook page and group in Southeast Missouri. And they started meeting like in 2016 or 17. They started meeting down in Scott City, just below Cape Girardeau. And I, by chance, met and ran into Susan, and and unknowing any of this stuff, and she told me about what she did in the group, and I had some interest in it. I had knew nothing, very little about it at that time as well. So I decided to go check out a meeting. And I go check these meetings out, and it's basically Susan, lecturing people on the books she read. And I'm like, this is kind of boring. I want action. You
Then
know,
I showed up.
and so then I started going about every other month. Well, I'll go back this month to check things out. I'll go back this month to check things out. And I remember getting out and looking on Google Maps in my region, topographic, the Google Earth maps,
I
thinking,
concur. This
boy,
was the first thing out of his mouth.
that'd be a good place up there. So I went to a meeting and suggested, we ought to go up there and look around up there at this place and conservation area. And they just kind of like, blew me off.
Me
And
too.
then I missed a meeting that Steve showed up at. And then I came back the next month and Steve's back at the meeting. And Steve says, yep, that's where they're at.
I mean,
So,
I can concur. That's the first thing out of his
yeah,
mouth. This
yeah,
area, he looked. He done his homework, and
yeah,
and it's
and
been game changing ever since. This place keeps giving and giving and
yeah,
giving.
and
It's
that
not
was
just this area. It's the part of the county. Because my brother
right.
lives close, and they're 400 yards from his house, walking up and down the creek. We
Yeah,
heard Bigfoot scream. It sounded like a T Rex, a grizzly bear, a lion, a pig, all at one time. It made your skin crawl, and you could actually feel it reverb in your skin and in your chest. And it was 500 yards away. What animal could do that?
yeah.
Something with a big lung capacity, bigger than a deer or squirrel or rabbit, or
You
coyote.
have
It was
a,
massive.
a bunch of those flat rock creeks that flow into bigger creeks, then into the Mississippi River, and rolling hills and heavily wooded area, very sparse populated area, a lot of farms and stuff like that. And and Lori, it's down southeast Missouri, North Cape Girardeau County is what we're talking about, and the so it's just natural habitat for that. And his brother Scott lives up there in the midst of all that. And I remember going to just going up to Scott's one night just to
Oh,
listen.
I hosted the first Bigfoot listening session. I think we didn't have a lot of people. Mike, his wife, that was it. That was it, I
Yeah,
think, for
it's
the
just
most
you
part.
and my wife and I went up there, and Scott and his family, and we heard
We
one of the
heard
yells
good
that
stuff.
night, and of course my wife heard it. And she believes she's just not interested in this like I am. But the,
It was legitimate
it was
Bigfoot
the
howl.
same thing when you hear those Ohio howls. They talk about the Ohio howls.
Exactly the
Basically,
same.
basically the exactly same howl. I replayed the Ohio howl off the internet the next day for my wife. She goes, "That's exactly what we heard last night."
Yeah, that
And
next day I was surfing YouTube and I found it. I'm like, Mike, check this out.
so,
And he's like, exactly. Even his wife said it was exactly like that. I mean, I can't remember how many howls we heard, but it was game changing for something
they
we've
get
never
active
done
up there.
before.
We need to some night get Scott and maybe Kayla on here too, his daughter Kayla, because
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
observed them. So
Actually, before my phone dies, my friend Miss Crystal, I worked with her. Uh, she babysitted my niece and her daughter were best friends, and they were in third grade. So we were off work that day with pay, and my AR build, she wanted to shoot it. She's never shot it. I'm like, okay, we'll go up there, and she's like, well, maybe we'll go squatching too. I'm like, who knows? So we get up there, and the girls were, loud. You know how girls are. They're wearing like fluorescent pink and just laughing and giggling. I'm like, I jokingly said, if you girls be quiet, you might hear something. So they slammed the car doors. I'm like, whatever. I had a little 22 pistol with me for protection, but we get out there. Went to my grandfather's hunting blind, and I took a couple pictures, but didn't think nothing about it. We heard something paralleling us on the way out. We walked, it walked. We stopped, it stopped. I didn't think maybe a deer. It's been 16 years since I went out in the woods.
yeah,
And it's only like 300 yards away from our vehicle.
right.
We took a couple pictures later to find out Bigfoot's in the background, which I deleted the photo accidentally, but I found another one that was even better. But on the way back, I could see the truck. It might have been 150 yards off. We're all walking in single files. The girls were just talking and cackling, and we had a rock throw by our head. And I seen it come in. It was about the size of a tennis ball, baseball. It wasn't overhand pitched. I could tell by the way it came in, it was underhanded. And I stopped. Crystal was like, quit throwing rocks at me, especially by my head. I'm like, then we look back. I'm like, wasn't me. Look back at the girls, and they stone cold white faced. They're like, we seen it. I'm like, seen what? And they pointed at the tree that was about 75 yards away, and they said it was taller than their daddy, and they seen it throw the rock. But they.
See, while you're telling this, Steve, while you're telling this,
I didn't see it.
I'm getting a visualization of a Three Stooges routine where where Bo and Larry, something happens to one, he's blaming the other one. Then Curly
Yeah,
sees the monster, and
pretty well.
I get that same. I don't know if you're getting that visualization, Brian, or not. That's the visualization I'm getting.
And the girls, they said they seen it. They didn't
Yeah,
say what it was, but they seen it. So we get back to the truck. We were only 80 yards from the vehicle. We get back, and the girls started talking and told us of all that, and they wanted to go back to go see it again to make sure they knew what they seen was actually real. Of
yeah.
course, when I went out there, I had my pistol. I forgot my ammo. It's just a 6-shot revolver, 22. But I forgot my ammo. Miss Crystal's like, absolutely not. Yeah, the girls started talking. They wanted to go right back. Let's go back again, see it again. Like I said, people it doesn't register in your brain. Even I think
years later, years later, we went back there, you and I don't know if Bill was with us or Matt, both of them maybe, and we did a recreation because there's a picture.
yep,
There's a
Matt, it was Matt.
picture
It was Matt.
of
Bigfoot Matt.
that thing peeking around the tree,
And it
and we
was,
found. Did we determine it was about 7 foot tall? His phone died.
oh, I'm dead.
No,
Sorry, guys.
didn't we determine it was about 7 foot
Phone.
tall? You with us, Steve? Well, maybe we lost him, Brian. His phone may have died on him. I think we determined that Bigfoot was about 7 foot tall, that his niece had seen that day, and just by doing a recreation on that. So, yeah, probably a juvenile male messing around with him, if you will. So, anyway, that's an hour. Steve Dietrich, and he's a buddy of mine and a research partner of mine, and I know he's probably been on a half dozen of Sasquatch theories of documentaries over the past 3 or 4 years as well. But we always have a good time, and he's very knowledgeable of the subject. The so
Yeah, we'll have to have him on for a part two by the sounds of it.
we need to get his brother Scott on too, because Scott has got some knowledge too and some experiences and stuff like that. Now we have next week, Brian, and I don't know if you're going to be. Well, you can be with us even if you aren't hosting, even if Grizzly is hosting. Hop on, feel free to hop on. Mary Ann Zebel from over will be a guest. She's from over in Southwest Missouri, the Springfield area, and she is the one that conducts and runs the Ozark Bigfoot Conference that's going to be coming up.
Oh yeah, okay.
And she's going to be with us next week, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the conference she's putting on. Some big name researchers going to be there, and those are great. I love the big name researchers, but I also like these people that are just out there in the trenches getting it done. That sometimes they bring as much knowledge and as much personal experience as the others do. So anyway, she'll
Yeah,
be with us next week.
yeah. If Grizzly allows it, I will be. Marianne's not so subtly told me I need to get out there to this festival. So
Well,
maybe next year.
because Becky won't be able to join next. She won't be on the program next week. Go hop on next week.
Oh, I'd love to.
And hopefully Grizzly's back, and we'll have Mary Ann. We'll talk about that. And the thing is, the timing of her conference, which isn't too far from me, over in the other side of the state of Missouri, in southern Missouri, but that usually falls on a weekend that I'm real busy with my job as athletic director at the high school, and I just can't get over there and get away for it. So, but otherwise, it'd be something fun to do. Little update. We talked about the guy in Crawford County last week that had some issues. I've got a schedule, I think August the 15th, somewhere around then, to get over to his place to see what's going on. Some Sasquatch is harassing his kids a little bit, and Miguel Ramirez with Sasquatch Theory is going to meet me over there, and we're going to kind of go over there and see if we can help those people out. And that's here in a couple of weeks. So,
well, whether I'm here or not, I can't wait to hear about the update on this one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting over there and seeing what's going on, and so anyway,
all right. Well,
looks like a wrap.
Yeah, I'd love having Steve on. That was great.
Yeah, Steve's got a wealth of knowledge, and we'll have to get him back on.
All right. Well, as the man with the biggest beard and Bigfooting would say, from coast to coast and around the world, everybody have a good night, and hopefully
I'll see you guys
next week, Mike.
Yes.